Greetings to our esteemed guests, diplomats, and friends from around the world. We are delighted that you could join us for this installment of our continuing series, A Seat at the Table, Women in Global Leadership. My name is Allison Brown McKithen, and I am the Associate Director of the World Trade Center, Washington, D.C. I'm substituting today for my colleague, Maureen Pace, who is based in Boston. The region is experiencing a storm and Maureen is without power this morning. She's so sorry to miss this important conversation, but will be back with us next month. Our lineup for this fall series is designed to further last season's success, presenting inspirational women leaders showcasing their unique and sometimes unconventional journeys to success in diplomacy, international business, trade, and culture. These intimate conversations with current and former ambassadors offer timely insights as we face unprecedented challenges confronting pandemic recovery, climate change, and of course, the security of women around the globe. So it is our pleasure to welcome Her Excellency Ivonne A-Baki, Ambassador of the Republic of Ecuador to the United States. This series has been inspired by author Susan Sloan and her wonderful book, A Seat at the Table, Women and Diplomacy and Lessons for the World. Her book was written for aspiring young leaders. In it, she shares lessons and experiences from dynamic women on how to succeed professionally, but also in life. Susan has been our moderator for this series, and we're so pleased to welcome her back to lead this important conversation today with Ambassador A-Baki. Before we get started, I would like to tell you a bit about our center. The World Trade Center, Washington, D.C. is the international programming arm of the Ronald Reagan Building and International Trade Center. For over 20 years, our company, TCMA, has proudly served as the exclusive manager of the Reagan Building through a unique public-private partnership with the US General Services Administration. Together, we have developed the Reagan Building into a hub for government, business, global commerce, and cultural exchange. I would like to take this opportunity to share our special thank you with our promotional partners, the Associates for American Foreign Service Worldwide, the Azar Foundation for Children of the World, the Howard University School of Business, and the Women's Business Collaborative. We value your continued support. Now it is my pleasure to formally introduce our moderator for today's program, our good friend and colleague, Ms. Susan Sloan. In addition to authoring A Seat at the Table, Women, Diplomacy, and Lessons for the World, Susan has met with more than 60 countries through diplomacy, advocacy, experiential education, and at the age of 30, completed a lifetime goal of visiting all 7 continents. We thank you again for joining us this morning and hope you enjoy what we were certain to be a fascinating conversation. Without further ado, I turn it back over to you, Susan.
Thank you, Allison. Good to see everyone virtually today. Friends, thank you for joining us. If this is your first time, welcome, bienvenidos. And to our friends who've joined us last season, welcome back. We're so glad to have you. As Allison said, I'm Susan Sloan, and you have a seat at the table. A special thank you to the Reagan Building, the World Trade Center, Washington, D.C., and Dublin, and TCMA for creating this series, A Seat at the Table, Women in Global Leadership. For the magic makers behind the scenes who make this series possible, thank you. This series is based on my book, A Seat at the Table, Women, Diplomacy, and Lessons for the World. I interviewed more than 30 leaders from around the globe, different leadership styles, different races, cultures, religions. Some of the countries involved were Afghanistan, Albania, Australia, Bulgaria, Croatia, Denmark, Finland, France, Hungary, Iceland, Kosovo, Kyrgyzstan, North Macedonia, Mexico, Namibia, Singapore, Sweden, and of course, the US. So why are we here today? Foreign policy research states that companies with the highest percentage of women in management are 47% more profitable than the lowest. So having women at the table is more profitable. In addition to that, Participation of civil society groups, including women's organizations, make a peace agreement 64% less likely to fail. So women around the peace and negotiating table is necessary. Gender parity, equity, and equality, it really positively benefits everyone. Right now, we are still facing this pandemic. I am still in my home, and we are in a world of fast-paced technology. We still have terrorism. We are dealing with climate change. We have a lot of issues going on, people. Who is around the table matters. Of course, a business case cannot solve gender diversity. It's more personal than that. That is why we need these personal stories to understand why it's important and what we can do to change the system. In this series, you've heard from many leaders, and we are so glad to be back this fall. And have no fear if you have to go to a meeting in 30 minutes with your boss. This is recorded and will be available on the YouTube channel of the Ronald Reagan Building. Also, friends, we're doing it live. So if you have questions, put it in the Q&A. I actually look at them and I read them out loud. Submit your questions. We want them, and I will ask them throughout. Also, we are on social media, friends. We're talking Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. Use the hashtag seat at the table and hashtag where leaders lead. You can find us at Reagan ITDC or me at Real Susan Sloan. Our honored guest today is Her Excellency Ambassador Ivonne A-Baki. She's a diplomat. She's an ambassador. She was even posted to Washington, D.C. twice. She's an artist. She was the first woman to run for president of Ecuador. And of course, she's a mother of 3 and a wife. Before we go into this conversation, it is my honor to welcome Her Excellency. Ambassador, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, my dear Susan. What a pleasure to be here with all of you. And I just received your book 2 days ago. I'm starting reading it. It's great. I will finish it in the weekend. I couldn't stop reading, but I had to do other things, so I couldn't. But it is amazing what you have done, and I really appreciate very much that you invited me to be here today. I want to thank so much Jan, a great friend since the last time I was here. We were friends, and to see her again just a few weeks ago at an event after we came back from the pandemic, we are getting together again. So I'm very honored and pleased to be with you. I want to thank you, Susan, Alison, everyone that has been part of connecting us back again. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, we're glad you're here. And we are glad that you are in Washington, D.C., joining us live from the States. Of course, we're going to start off with many different questions. Again, post your questions in the Q&A, friends, and we will be happy to ask them. Ambassador, you really have a fascinating background. I also got your book and have been reading it. And you're born in Ecuador, you moved to Lebanon, the home country of your parents, and you lived in Lebanon during the Lebanese War. Tell us about who shaped you during your childhood and how you became a leader.
Well, it's amazing to say that, but what made me are 2 men and also my mother for the unconditional love, but it was my father and my husband. It's really sad sometimes to see that what shaped us as women to be pushed for office or for other places that are where you can make a difference are mostly men that are very secure. My father, when I was a child, when I was 7 years old, he pushed me to do many things. I was born in Ecuador, and he was in the banana plantations. So we had an airport there, and there was fumigation of the bananas. He told me, go on the plane, you have to make it. So I started flying planes with somebody, of course, helping me at the age of 7. So, so for me, it was a unique experience to be able to be part of this man's world since such a short age. And then when I was 13, we moved from Ecuador to Lebanon just to visit my mother's family in Lebanon. And she took advantage of us being there, and she put us in school to learn, because at that time I only spoke Spanish. They used to teach us in school very little English. So I had to learn English, French, and Arabic in order to go to school there. So it was really an amazing experience, a different culture. Lebanon was the most beautiful country. They used to call Beirut the Paris of the Middle East. And it was a great experience. But I met this man when I was just 15 years old, who I fell in love with. And you have it in the book, this story about how we met.
In a car accident, yes.
In a car accident. I crashed his car. I was 15 years old when my father asked me, what do you like? And you know, in Latin America, they present you in society at that age, at 15. So it's quinceañera. So I said, no, I don't want the party. I want a car. You told me to drive planes and cars, and I want a car. They raised my age in order for me to have a license at 18. So in 15, 18, I had the car. My father brought me this Thunderbird that I wanted, convertible white. So I was in the Corniche in Beirut, driving this car at the age of 15, convertible. I saw this handsome man next to me in a Corvette. So I thought he was racing, and he turned around and I crashed his car. So that's how we met. And my life changed in a way because mostly, of course, he was an amazing person who was very secure. He passed away a few years ago. You know, it's just amazing how a war can change you. After that, the war in Lebanon started. And we as women, especially in the Middle East, we couldn't be heard. Our voice was not there. So I started painting. I started showing what I couldn't say in words in another way. And I used to use woman as a symbol of unconditional love for peace. And I met so much amazing women that really, through their eyes, you could feel their power and their not being able to express themselves. So we started creating a foundation with my husband, a foundation to make them have more leadership in a way, to include them in society, no matter what religion they was. So anyway, my life changed completely after the war in Lebanon. And I started working for peace through the arts first, and now through politics and diplomacy.
And it's been a whirlwind journey. As folks know, you've been posted to Washington, D.C. twice. So that says something about your leadership. I know all of us are curious to know, what is one valuable lesson that you've learned from these experiences? You've had many different leadership experiences, but a valuable lesson that you can share with everyone joining us today.
Well, I think you have to have passion for what you do. And you have to believe in something. I'm not a person that prepares that I'm going to do this and I want to do this and I want to arrive to that. No, it's just that never underestimate a coincidence. That something that happens to you, it's not for just that's happening. There's always a cause for everything. If you are put in the path someone that passes through your life and affects in something, it's for a reason. Everything has a reason. So for me to come to Washington at that time, it was because a phone call from the president. I was at Harvard University. I was an artist in residence at the time as an artist. And, but also I was doing at the Kennedy School, my master's in public administration and public policy. And I was with Professor Fisher, Roger Fisher, the guru of negotiations, because I wanted to do peace in the Middle East, not between Ecuador and Peru, but in the Middle East. But it happened that I was in my home in Washington, in Boston, in Cambridge. And I had my apartment in Cambridge, in Boston, and my office at Harvard Square. But we were having dinner at home with the conflict management group with Roger Fisher when my phone at 11 at night rings. And who is it? The president of Ecuador at that time, Sixto Durán Ballén. And he was calling me to ask me, because in 1995, a war started between Ecuador and Peru. And he asked me, would you please ask Professor Fisher if he could come with his conflict management group to Ecuador to help us in this? And I said, Mr. President, no coincidences. Here is Professor Roger Fisher. We are having dinner at my place, and I was a member of the conflict management group. He took the phone, he spoke. After 2 days, we were in Ecuador. And my life changed from an artist being there to a negotiator with the conflict management group for peace. So it's just things that happen as it goes. So in 1995, we started this negotiations for peace between Ecuador and Peru. It took 3 years. And in
Mhm.
1998, it was the most historic peace negotiation that was the last border dispute in the hemisphere. Imagine what we were before Ecuador and Peru. I was raised in Ecuador as a child that Peru was my enemy. As a child, that we have to
Wow.
hate Peru. And the Peruvians were not raised that way because they didn't know that they took half of the land of Ecuador thousands of years ago. I mean, or hundreds of years ago. So this is what peace does. You know, peace does change, and it was amazing. It was a historic peace that was signed in Brasilia, and it was with the 4 guarantor countries: the United States, Argentina, Chile, and Brazil. And at the signing ceremony, all the countries, at that time, President Clinton was president here in 1998 when we signed the peace. President Carlos Menem from Argentina, President Eduardo Frei from Chile, and from Brazil, Fernando Enrique Cardoso, and then Ecuador and Peru, the president of Ecuador, Jamil Mawat, who is the one that signed the peace with ex-president Fujimori also. So that changed my life again, because this is when I was appointed ambassador to the United States after 1998 when we signed the peace. So when I arrived, Susan, when I arrived to Washington at that time, we were only 3 women ambassadors.
Wow.
3 women ambassadors. No one from Latin America or the Caribbean. Maybe one, I think one from Africa and one from Asia, not even Europe at that time. And then a few years later, we were 12. Few years later, by 2000, I think, we were 12. And then there was a book written, and then there were 12. That's the name of the book, by Marilyn Sifokli, who is with Howard University. So I was part of the book, and so they started talking about, now they are 12. I'm coming back after 22 years, and we are over 23. I think we're 27 or 30 women ambassadors. So this is what it makes, you know, you have to push forward. We have to include. When I came and we were only 3, I was pushing to have more women being at the table, being as ambassadors. It means what it means sitting at the table, being able to make a difference while you are at the table. When I was negotiating as a chief negotiator for the peace between Ecuador and Peru, I was the only woman at the table.
Now, so you being the only woman at the table during those peace negotiations, one, tell us what that was like, but more importantly, how, through that lens of seeing as through being a woman, how did that change the negotiations? What kind of questions were you able to bring up? And had you not been there, those questions wouldn't have been there.
That's so important. So what an amazing question. You know the difference between women and men in a table. A man, when he sits, he says, I want this, and I don't move. A woman, even if it's one woman, of course we need more, but she sees in a different way. This is the problem we have in the middle. How can we find a way in order to get closer? So what is it? You have to give up and give up. You cannot have a solution if you only take everything, because it's not a solution. The one that wins everything will come back, the other one will come back and fight again. That's why we don't have peace in the world, because always somebody wins and somebody loses. And the real gain is when both sides lose a little bit and we gain all. So this is the thing that we have to realize. And the same is in politics, in negotiations, in everything, in life. When you, as a woman in the morning, you wake up in the morning, the woman is the thermometer of the house. If a woman wakes up with bad, humor or with not feeling well, the whole house is not feeling well. So
my mother always says that if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy.
Exactly. So why is it that? That's why, because the man wants everything. There's a story that Roger Fisher always used to say, that the position of difference between men and women, that this couple that were married and they have 2 boys and they work both, and she had to go to work and he stays when she goes to work, he stays with the children. And so the woman comes back from work and it's a mess. The house is a mess. They are all crying. The husband is sitting on the corner, very upset. And she comes, what's going on? And he says, look at your children. I don't know how to treat them. They wanted an orange. They wanted oranges, and we had only 1 orange. So I gave I cut it in half and I gave half for one, half to the other. And they were crying that no. Everybody wants it, the whole orange. Each one wants the whole orange. So she asked him, did you ask him why? So he said, no, I just cut it in half. So she went to the one boy and she said, why do you want the whole orange? And he said, because I want to make a cake and I want the whole peel of the orange to be able to use it. And the other one wanted to make a glass of juice and he needed the whole orange to have a glass of juice. So what did she do? She peeled the orange, she gave the peel to one and she gave the whole orange to the other. So there's always a solution because we have to ask. That's what women do, dialogue, understanding. They put themselves at the place of the other. And that's why we need more women in positions of change in any place, not only in politics or diplomacy, but everywhere.
I agree. And women who are asking the questions also are listening to the answers. And that really is the secret sauce to it. Tell me about, let's talk a little bit about your art. So some people say that diplomacy is an art, and I believe that. However, art and diplomacy are very different sectors. How has your background in artistic expression shaped the way you engage in diplomacy?
That's amazing. I think art is everything. It shapes because it takes you, art is the most eloquent silent language for anything. So for example, I don't think I can work or do anything without having music as a background. It takes you, it inspires you, it makes you feel that the sky is the limit, that there is a power that's beyond. And this is art. Art's when you're closer to God, when you are enlightened to be able to work better. So I think every one of us has something artistic inside. There are people that say, oh, I don't have anything of the arts. It's not true. What Jean-Jacques used to say that even thinking is an art, that we learn like other arts and with more difficulty. Because the way we think is an art. It's how you make yourself accepted in society as a human being. We're humans, so we have feelings. So everything for us is about feelings. I think this pandemic showed us how important is a hug or a kiss or a shake hand or feeling that we are connected, not just through a video or a Zoom, but also as a people, as a human. So this is being art. Art is us. Art is God. Art is light. Everything that we do is art. And diplomacy is the most important part. It's artistic. It's an art. The diplomacy. You know, they say that. What's the definition of a diplomat? Is the one that can tell somebody to go to hell in such a way that he or she will be looking forward for the trip. So it's the way you put it. So it's an art, the art of diplomacy, the art of words, the art of speech, the art of feelings, the understanding. Everything is an art.
Everything is definitely an art. And so you're an artist in more ways than one. And I've seen some of your paintings that are in your book. And I had a few people ask about this book and the title of it. It's called My Destiny, Horrors of War and Aspirations for Peace. And if you're interested in reading more about it and getting the book, contact the embassy and I'm sure they can help you find it and get you a copy. Now, there are some questions in the chat and I'm going to bring them with my own questions. As many people know, you were the first woman to run for president of Ecuador. You were the first woman to say, I want a seat at that table and actually go for it. For cultures that are not accustomed to hearing women's voices, what lessons have you learned to get your voice heard? And maybe through this is the process when you ran for president.
Yeah, Susan, I never planned what I want to do, which is what I'm saying from the beginning. So it's not that I wanted to be president. It's important to open doors for other women. I was the first woman, so it was opening the doors for others. I knew I was not going to win. Don't forget, I left Ecuador when I was 13. Nobody knew me. I came from Lebanon to Boston, to the United States, first to Washington, and then to Harvard. And I never went back to Ecuador until I was going to run for president. So I was representing Ecuador always as an honorary consul since I was maybe 20 years old in Lebanon, but then afterwards here. But it was my son, and it's in the book, my son Faisal comes, he was in Ecuador at that time, he graduated from Harvard and went to Ecuador because he wanted to work like my father in the agricultural part. And he loved Ecuador, and he comes with a group of young friends that they were working together, and they thought they needed a difference. They wanted an outsider in Ecuador, a woman, because we're having a lot of issues of corruption. And so he comes alone and he says, I want to see you, I want to talk to you. So what will you think that he wants to see me alone? I thought maybe he was going to tell me that he's going to get married with somebody I'm not going to accept or something. I never thought he would ask me, we want you to run for president. So I started laughing. I said, Faisal, nobody knows me there. And he said, yeah, we made the polls that you're only 5% name recognition. So I said, what? How can I be president for that? So I was saying, no, it's impossible. Then the next day, people started calling. And anyway, to make the story short, I said, okay, I don't lose anything. I know I'm not going to win because it's the first time, but at least it's a statement or something that will open the doors, as I said, for others to do it. So, the best experiences, and there are two things that changed my life: the war in Lebanon and running for president for Ecuador. I went there and look, even I feel chills now. I visited places that I never thought they would have this amount of poverty. There is an Afro-Ecuadorian area in Ecuador called Esmeraldas, and they live in a place that it's one of the richest places in the northern part of Ecuador. But I went up the river to places that nobody had reached before, and there were young children with their stomachs swollen, and people were losing their sights. Older people, they have the most gorgeous music, and they were losing the music and the oral poetry. And we started asking why, and it was because of river blindness, onchocercosis.
Oh, wow.
I remember that time, the foundation of Jimmy Carter's foundation, they helped us a lot in getting the medicines that were needed for that, because it's a vaccine that you have to take, and the incubation period is of 5 years. So when the child is born after 5 years, they have to take this vaccine every year in order for that to happen. And it was an oral vaccine. So the group that came with me to see this, and they told me it's a Harvard University's doctors, and they told me, Ivonne, this is onchocercosis, and this can be cured. So we started working. Imagine from being candidate to doing that, and we eradicated it at that time. So this is one example of many other things. But I didn't make it, of course, I didn't win, but I won in other ways. So you don't have to win in order to win. You can lose and win much more. For me, this was the most amazing experience in different ways, and I'm very happy that I did it. I don't want to do it again. Let others do it. But it was a great experience for me.
Opening the door for others, that's part of the process. And I love this idea of you don't have to win. Yeah. And more people need to know that if you go for something, even if you don't get it, it's the act of the journey. It's the act of doing it. Exactly. And having people see you do it. It's so true. Let's talk a little bit more about Ecuador. Let's talk about gender and leadership. How has gender and women in leadership in Ecuador, how has it changed in the parliament, women in the workforce, in politics, in the private sector? Tell us about that.
It changed a lot, Susan. We have been having a lot of advances in the past 20 years. I mean, it's an amazing way of seeing how it changed. I was just seeing before you presented that you put countries that have 50% at the parliament. Well, Ecuador is one of them, and it's not there. It says Cuba, Bolivia, I think it was United Arab Emirates, and Rwanda.
I will add it from the research, and I will get to those researchers and say, guys, come on.
Well, you have to add Ecuador, because Ecuador, we have that. There was, I was president of the parliament of the Andean region, all the countries of the Andean region, which is Ecuador, Colombia, Peru, Bolivia, and Chile as an associate also. And at that time, I think it was in 2003 or no, 2004 or 5. And the way that elections were happening for the parliament or for other elections, but especially for the parliament, you put the list of the parties, right? The candidates. And you usually they say 50-50, but they put first men and then at the bottom, the woman. So when they elect them, when they vote for the list, but who wins is the ones that are at the top. So you never had the 50-50. So the changes that were done, where that they will do the zebra kind, they said, that they will use it. It's called zebra. So it means that if you start with a man, then a woman, then a man, then a woman, then a man. And if you start with a woman, then a man. So when the vote happens, you will be 50-50. And this is what happened in Ecuador after we changed that. So now we have in the Congress, in the Parliament of Ecuador, we have not only 50-50, we have, last time there were 3 women, president, vice president, and second vice president. Now we have a woman from the Amazon as president, and another woman as vice president, and a man as a second vice president. So it's always, this is so important to have that, not only a woman, but a variety of inclusion. We have a lot of different, it's a big diversity in Ecuador. You have a lot of the indigenous, you have the mestizos, you have the Black community, you have the Montubios, you have all kinds of different Amazonic cultures, different languages. I don't know how many, 17 and more languages from the indigenous languages. So it's a very rich cultural inclusion. And we are very much including. I mean, it's a country that has done a lot in moving forward towards that, and especially the inclusion of women in every field, not only in the legislative or the executive, but also in the civil society and in this, as a CEOs, as companies, as private sector, banking, everything. We didn't get yet to what we want, but it's moving there. And it's not the fault of men, and that's something that we have to work on that. I think sometimes the number one enemy of a woman is a woman. Because we don't believe in ourselves, or we don't believe in others to be as good, and we have to move that. And it's us mothers when we raise our children also. I have 2 boys and a girl, and I raise them equally. And my daughter, she thinks she could be the president of the world more than my boys. So it depends on how you raise them and how secure you give them, and not to tell them just you have to look good and get married, but you have the role and the obligation to make a difference in the world, because we are more than 50% of the world population, and because the world is going in the wrong direction. We need more women working together with men.
Agree, 100%, 100%. What can you say to the men who want to be allies to women? What can they do differently to get more women at the table and to elevate women's voices?
I think they have realized, men have realized, we complement each other. And that's why more companies everybody wants to have more women, because they see that they get much more when they have women working together with men in a balanced way. So I think men are realizing more and more. Of course, there's still the macho kind of machismo. We have it in Latin America, we have it in the Middle East. I'm also from Arab descent, from Lebanese descent. So we see a lot of that, and it's changing. Before coming ambassador here, I was in Qatar as ambassador. And I've seen there how much it had changed the past, I would say 20 years also. I think Sheikh Hamoza, the mother of the Amir, the actual Amir, she has done a lot to help women move forward, putting them in different positions that are key positions. And in universities, they are studying. And you have, when I was there, I used to go to the graduations, and every single graduation that I went during these 2 years that I was there, the women were always having the best grades, and they were the ones that were honored more than boys, more than a man. So it's that, being educated, prepare yourselves, don't feel less, be secure. And men, they know that. Sometimes they try to underestimate you. Don't try to be different than what you are. Stay feminine. Think that you are much better, because men know that we are more intelligent. Whether they want it or not, they know that we see things in a different way. We have the sixth sense, which is something that that it's our force, because we can be multitask. We can do many things at the same time, just because we have to deal with the family. We are the ones that give birth, and we know the importance of the human, of the child, of the baby, and how to protect them. So we can manage the house in economics. We are the best economists, the best organizer, the best anything, everything. I love washing dishes. I don't cook very well, but I wash dishes. So anyway, we can do all the things at the same time, and I think that's what men like also, and they are helping. They are moving forward. the old times are over. I know still there's a long way to go, but we don't have to be so sensitive about not being heard. Let's talk. Let's start talking like what you're doing now, like we are talking. Let's start talking. Nobody can silence us.
I agree. And speaking is the opposite of being silent. So I know many women need to hear that. And we're seeing that even in Afghanistan right now.
Yeah.
Now, there is a question going back into your history from Jocelyn Steiner. She's curious to know a little bit about your siblings and how your father was clearly, you know, a remarkable man for treating you just the same. And also he owned a banana farm. It's in your book. I find that fascinating as well. And really became an entrepreneur in Ecuador. Tell us about growing up with your siblings, how being raised in two different cultures, essentially, and being raised by a father who treated you the same. Tell us about that experience.
Yeah, I think the most beautiful part of my life was living in Ecuador, where I was raised. And my father, you know, the generations, the group, the people that left the Middle East, I would say all the region, to Latin America or to the United States. It was after the First World War, then after the Second World War, then afterwards during the Civil War in Lebanon, the last one, 75, when I was already there. So my father was one of those, but he has his brothers already there, already in Ecuador. He was a teenager when he left because of the World War. And he arrived, as I know, he arrived first to Brazil. You know, you have to go by boat. You have to go to Marseille in France and go by ship to other places. There were no planes at that time. So it took them forever to arrive. And he arrived to Brazil, then he went to Argentina, and then he based in Ecuador because his brothers from his previous, from his father's side were there. The names were changed. His name in Lebanon was Fuad Juez, and then it was changed to Fred Juez, J-U-E-Z, Juez. So he arrived, and the majority of the Lebanese that arrived, or all the Arabs that arrived to Latin America, were going to commerce, trade, the Phoenicians kind, you know, the trade. My father loved agriculture, so he went into agriculture. So he was the one that started the bananas in Ecuador. And that's why there's a time when they called him the king of the bananas, because he started. So I was raised with the smell of the land, with the green, the smell of of nature, the beauty of nature, the horses. We used to eat a lot of bananas, and you know, bananas had potassium, and they said that potassium is what gives you serotonin and makes you feel happy. So I'm always very happy, maybe because of that, because I ate so much bananas.
I eat a banana every day. I feel you. Yes.
Yeah. So my sisters and brothers were born in Ecuador. The five of us were born in Ecuador, and then we moved to Lebanon just because my mother in vacation. So, and I moved to another culture, and it was not easy. But the thing that was easier is that we knew that. I mean, I didn't speak Arabic, but my parents used to talk Arabic among each other, so I heard it all the time. So it's like you are remembering that what they were saying, and then you learn easier. It took me 3 months to learn Arabic when I went to Lebanon, and it was a different culture, but we knew about it. But I think that it's so important to learn different cultures. And now more than ever that we are globalized, interconnected, we have to understand the cultures of others. I think there will be less wars if we put ourselves in the place of the others and why they react like that. Why we have to deal with different cultures in different ways. So I learned that, and I think this is something that it's important for everyone. I knew that you have traveled for over 60 countries or more, 7 continents. This is so important. That's why you are like that. That's why you wrote this amazing book. And that's why you understand the importance of us interconnected, that whatever happens in any place in the world, where it's close or far away, it affects us all. Look at the pandemic. It started in China. Look where we are now. It's the world. An economic crisis that affects one place far away, it affects us all. So we have to help the other in order to help ourselves.
Agree. And it takes empowering ourselves first, then to empower others and have that ripple effect. Let's talk about where you are now, your seat now. You have been the ambassador before to Washington, D.C., and you are currently the ambassador. Tell us about the relationship between Ecuador and the US. How has it changed over the years since you have been ambassador twice? You really have a time span that has been very crucial in this relationship. Tell us about that.
Oh my God, that's a great question. It takes a long to say that, but I'll tell you as a short of it's an amazing experience for me to be here. I was here with President Clinton and President Bush at that time in 1998 to 2002. And then I'm coming back and I'm president with President Trump and now President Biden. In Ecuador, it's the same. I was president with Jamil Mawat, who was president at that time, and then Gustavo Noboa. And now I'm president in Ecuador, also with President Moreno, and now President Lasso in Ecuador. But the thing is that I don't think having a president, whoever comes, changes things. Because the politics in the United States, you have institutions are strong, so the policies, they come, the style changes, the way, the style, it's completely different, but the roots, the things don't change much. And Ecuador is different. They change according to what happens, because still we are a developing country and we need a lot of work to do in our institutions. But my experience, if it comes to how I see things and how they see us as Latin America or South America, in my case, it hasn't changed much. And it's sad, because for me, my dream is to have the hemisphere strong. And talking about being strong first. If we are strong first as a hemisphere, we can be strong in other places, but we have to start in our house. We have to start here. So what I see is that we are still the backyard. So this has to change. Imagine, Susan, and everyone that's hearing, Latin America and the hemisphere as a whole, because we're all Americans. It's North America, South America, Central America, the Caribbean Americans, everything is in the hemisphere. So we have to sit and think, what is it that is missing in order to open up frontiers like Europe did? Europe, they have a different religion, different backgrounds, different languages, different ideologies, different religions, different everything. And they realized that they have to open their borders in order not to have immigration, illegal immigration. They have to get strong, all of them. So the big countries, stronger economic countries, help the less developed economic countries in order to strengthen all together. And now they have one currency. And they open the frontiers. They can work wherever they want, but they come back to their own countries that they choose to. So in our continent, we have the same language, English and Spanish, okay, two languages, and Portuguese in Brazil. We have the same religion, the same values, the same ideologies, no, but values, yes. But we used to have the same ideologies. When I come back this time, when I was here last time, 22 years ago, the hemisphere, if you see the map, all the countries of the Americas, on the South America, Central America, we were the #1 partners of trade with the United States, all one color, all. This time I come back, you know who are the only #1 partners of the United States? Ecuador and Colombia. Other countries from far took over. So why is this happening? Because we are not giving that importance to the reason of why immigration is coming here. Because we don't have the opportunities. Because every country dreams to have the dream of the American dream. But we can have the Ecuadorian dream, the Brazilian dream, the Bolivian dream by being in our countries if we were strong. That's why we need to do more in the United States to help build strong countries economically, politically, in order to be able to be stronger and not have the problem that we're having now everywhere. So I think that the things haven't changed in that part. I know they want to do it, I know that, but the emergent things that are happening, they forget the urgent, the important issues, that is to create a strong hemisphere. And not only in the hemisphere, we have everything. If you're talking about water, We have the Amazon, the lungs to the world. What's going to be missing in the world is not oil, it's water. We have minerals in abundance. We have down under the land and over the biodiversity, biggest biodiversity for all the medicines in the world, also in the Amazon. We have richness of agriculture, the most fertile land of the world. All the products that are going to be missing in food security, we have it in the hemisphere. We have the best workforce. What for to go and invest in China and other places in Asia when you can invest in the hemisphere? The labor is much less. Ecuador is a dollarized economy. So we are dollarized completely. So it's equal. So a lot of North Americans, they go and they retire in Ecuador because of the weather, because of the dollar, because of the people, because of what they have. So I can stay talking about hours of how I'm seen now after 22 years and how it was after before. It didn't change in that part. So my dream is still this time to be able to push forward what I think it will be a dream that in that time, President Clinton, Bill Clinton had, when he started the free trade area of the Americas. That was the idea, to open up the borders, starting with the economic force and then opening it up to everything. Can you imagine not having to deal with this issue of why they are coming and why they are not coming? If the force that is working here is from Latin America too, but you have immigration because they are losing opportunities in their own countries or they're having problems of war. So this is what I'm seeing, and I hope this comes back.
I hope so too. I hope so too. And we need more change. So it's good that you have this perspective, especially because you've had this extensive career. And on that note, we have a question from Sister Shirley. And she says, Ambassador, what advice do you have for an active, experienced woman who has more to give, but is not offered a seat at the table due to her age, race, or gender?
Well, this is another issue that we have to work on, you know. We have to not see ourselves as different. This is the first thing. It's you that create. It's you that create your own image of not having an opportunity because of my gender, because of my color, because of my religion, because of my background, because of this country. I mean, I am from a different background. I'm from a different, I'm from the Middle East, I'm from Ecuador, Latin America, I'm Latina, I'm Arab. It's something that also here after September 11 was criticized a lot, being from the Arab world. But you have to see yourself as a human. Don't put that as something, because what you transmit it, when you feel that you are being treated different because of what you are, you transmit that. So be secure. Everybody has to be, you have to be accepted by them. And I think the United States is good in that. It's very good in that. The only place that I felt accepted and nobody asked my religion, my race, nothing about me, was when I came first time to the United States in 1987. Nobody asked me. Everybody asks after September 11, things changed. Okay, but before that, I felt the only country that nobody asked me. Even in Ecuador, they will tell me, oh, you are a foreigner, you are coming from Lebanon. In Lebanon, they will tell me, oh, you are a foreigner, you are from Latin America. Only here I was included as me. Nobody asked me anything. So this country is unique, but we have to also help it. We have to say that we are all immigrants here. Everybody is from one place. And the richness of this country is that. This richness we are. So not to be insecure about being a woman first, or being of color, or being of race different, or being of a different religion. Never, you make yourself accepted. You are the one that makes yourself accepted.
Agree. And more women, if we embody that feeling, we will create a seat at the table, God willing, hopefully. We have a question from Melvin Hardy, and he wants to know more about how you and other women leaders influence geopolitical affairs, such as nuclear weapons abolition, energy and climate matters. So when we talk about nuclear weapons and how more countries spend money on war and fighting and aircraft and missiles than they do peace initiatives, How are you and other women helping to change this narrative and change this discrepancy?
What a good question. That has been always my issue. This is what, when living in a war and seeing what happens with a war, you know, imagine that they invented a bomb that kills the most amount of people living the buildings intact. What kind of a bomb is that? I remember when I was in Lebanon, the bombs that were coming, sometimes they were sending bombs as toys. So children will come and touch them and it will explode. And I was seeing that. So that's what took me into working towards peace because of that. And the most important part of working towards peace is eliminating nuclear weapons. You cannot continue doing that. Investing trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars in something that is going to kill us as human beings. What's going on? What's going on? What's going to be extended is in climate change, we have to work towards that because it's for humans. We are the ones that are going to be in extinction, not the Earth. The Earth is going to continue. We are the ones that are going to disappear. You have to get a video that I just received now about something in the UN. I will send it to you. It's amazing about that, you know. A dinosaur that entered the UN. A dinosaur that they're making it like, enter the UN. And I said, stop talking, I'm talking to you. I was in extinction 7 billions, millions of years ago. You don't want to be in extinction. Take care of your land and stop bombs and stop nuclear bombs and stop. This is going to be killing the human. This is going to contaminate not the Earth, the human. It's you that are going to be disappearing. So what are we doing? That's why, Susan, that's why we have to have more women in those positions, that it's mostly men that are doing those kind of bombs and arms that are killing humanity and contaminating the world.
So what I'm hearing is we need more women at the table. That's what I'm hearing.
Like always, more women at the table.
And speaking about the importance of,
let it be a round table.
A round table, yes. Everyone's equal.
Because there is no head. We are all
yes.
equal. And we have the problem in the middle and we try to solve it.
And speaking of children and finding these bombs, let's think about these future generations. We have a question, more like a comment, about the importance of children creating art for peace. How we raise our children and how they see the world, how they can see peace and the necessity of it. Tell us a little bit about that.
That's also another great question. You know, I'm a mother of 3, but I'm a grandmother of 7. I have 7 grandchildren.
Oh my gosh.
And all of them, they believe so much in the arts towards understanding. So when my children were in Lebanon during the war, I used to bring at that time all the family children to paint at my residence. I mean, you know, it would be a Sunday to be open house for the family, and I would take the children to paint. You know what they remember until now, all of them? Those paintings. They don't remember the bombs because there were bombs around us all the time. They don't want to remember that. They remember only the moment that they were having music and they were painting with colors. And those paintings that we did, they were framed. When I went back to Lebanon after my husband passed away 4 years ago, you know where they took me this? My nephews, the children of the family at that time, they took me to the rooms where they have those paintings. So the importance of art, because the children, they know more than us of what they want. And it's their world now. They are the present and future generations. So they can explain through arts. I'm doing that. I want to do at the embassy, and I'm inviting all of you to come. In fact, Marco, who is the cultural attaché here, we're organizing an event of children with the arts to talk about, to make paintings for what they want the world to be and how they see it and how peace is important. But peace is not the absence of violence. It's the absence of poverty. It's the absence of caring, of seeing women being violated, of seeing children being abused, of narco-trafficking, the absence of all these terrible things of terrorism. This is peace. Peace is when you are in peace with yourself, when you can have these children be raised in an atmosphere where they cannot fear, without fear. And this is so important because children are born without fear, pure love. You know, there are only 2 emotions in a human, either love or fear. They are born living in love, and we teach them how to live in fear. So now they are living in fear. You live in fear, you don't have a future. So we have to stop those horrible wars that are happening and using all these, weapons that are destroying the human and destroying the present and future generations. So art is so important to move them from delinquency, from moving to going to bands and gangs. And we have to give them sports, and arts are the solution for peace.
Agree. And we are almost at time. We have 2 minutes left. And so we have one final question. This comes from Beth. And she says that you have an amazing history and experience with so many cultures. So hats off to you. She speaks about having the same rights with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which women were so key in creating after World War II. And now all UN countries are supposed to uphold this. And as we know, all countries are not upholding this. How do you see this? Can you comment about this? And how do we get the UN to actually uphold this Declaration of Human Rights for all gender and all people?
Absolutely, Beth. That's another good question. I think, you know what Hillary Clinton used to say, human rights are women's rights, which is true. I believe very much that human rights is women's rights. The rights that woman has is because she knows more than ever what the needs of the children are. It's an obligation for the UN to do that. And that, I'm not going to criticize the UN system. It was created after World War II, all the UN system. For what? For peace, because of the Second World War. So it was created to create peace. And they are going in bureaucracy. It's all bureaucracy. They should be going more to places and see results. Stop doing more research and more papers and more things that are not dealing with the real issues. The real issues are there, and the women are talking about. I know that they are including more women. We don't have even a woman at the UN yet as a Secretary General. So what do you expect? What do you expect? So it's a moving forward, it's moving forward. We have to push for that. It's a must. And it's us that have to do it. Together with men, because there are a lot of men that are believing in that too, and they are pushing for it. I know Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the UN, is saying that all the time. We need to move this forward. Women have to be included, and we have to have more than 50% women involved in all these issues, especially in the United Nations system all over the world, not only the New York UN, but everywhere where there is UN institution. To have women being there, and especially on the issues that have to do with women's rights. So
100%, you're so right.
It's a human right of all, not only women's rights. It's a human rights for all. But I wish there could come a day, Susan and Beth, I wish there could come a day when we don't have to say just human rights. Human rights, women, men, children, whoever it is, without using the word woman anymore. I hope so.
I hope so too. And Ambassador, it looks like that is our time. Thank you for joining us at A Seat at the Table. Thank you to the World Trade Center of Washington, D.C. and Dublin, and to you, our audience, for joining us today. I hope everyone joins us again on November 30th with Ambassador Meland Revere. She's the first ambassador for global women's issues for the United States. Remember to continue this conversation with us online using the hashtags Seat at the Table and Where Leaders Lead. Now, if you missed part of the program, have no fear. This is recorded and it will be on the YouTube channel of the Ronald Reagan Building and International Trade Center within about a week. Thank you again for joining this series, A Seat at the Table, Women in Global Leadership. I'm Susan Sloan, and you have a seat at the table.